Hello everyone and welcome. My name is Jukka Haho and it's a pleasure to be your host today. We are continuing our webinar series within engineering and framing detailing, and today's topic is bracing design. Our speaker today is Paul Serving. Could you introduce yourself, Paul?
Hello everyone, thanks for attending. I'm from the Australian office and have been working for Vertex for 7.5 years. And prior to that, I was a light gauge steel detailer for 19 years using Vertex BD for 4 of those. Thanks, Yuka.
And our agenda today is here. We have a presentation just next to that, and then after that we have time for the questions and answers. So feel free to submit your questions and comments using the Q&A tab or Q&A section in your webinar interface, and we will answer those after the presentation. The webinar is being recorded, and the recording will be published on our YouTube channel then after the webinar. Paul, the floor is yours.
Okay, today we'll be looking at the bracing design within Vertex BD. This will cover how to insert the braces and how the relevant data for the bracing and the relevant data for the bracing to work. The following video will go through these steps. Yuka, can you play the video? Welcome everybody to Vertex BD brace design. Today we are looking at how a detailer can insert bracing to achieve the desired bracing capacities in each direction. What will happen with inserting the braces is the brace will take into consideration the height of the brace and the width of the brace to achieve the correct capacity used for that brace. The braces that we're going to look at today is purely going to be the standard braces that are generally used with the light gauge steel, which is a K brace, a Z brace, and a strap brace. Now, there are a couple other braces that potentially can be used with this brace design system, but they're the ones that we're just going to concentrate on today. The other thing to be mindful of when using the brace design is the brace design is only used with the manually inserted braces. So if you like to use the bracing which is done within the framing tools of the wall panel, that is not using the brace designs that we will be showing you today. Okay, so on this plan, I'm just going to look at inserting a couple of the braces, and then we'll see what the brace changes have done. So if I select a wall panel, edit parts, and in this case, I'm going to insert a K brace. So the standard K brace is this one here, so I'll just use the K brace. Okay. And insert the K brace. So the fundamentals of adding the brace is as per normal. There is no changes to what is happening. The difference comes from what has actually been inserted within the end. So as you can see on this panel, I've now inserted the brace. The brace has K brace, which is what used to be shown on the plan, and we've now got this 24/6 coming up in front of it. So what it's basically telling us is that the brace height is 2400 high and the width of the brace is 600 wide. Okay, so that's basically all that is doing, and that is a new code that will be used to achieve your brace values. So if we did a Z brace, and I'll just do it on this wall panel here. 16, and the Z brace done in the same method. Again, the only difference is in the notation of the brace. Okay, and then if we're looking at a strap brace, I'll go to edit this one, and we'll look at using the strap brace with the user limits. You can use this one as well, but we'll just use this one for now. And you also have the option under the strap brace to have different values. Obviously, if it's a single brace, being either on the external or internal side, it doesn't matter, but it'll be a single cross brace. Or you have a double cross brace using the both method. So in this particular case, I'll just do a single. And then on this wall here, if I do the cross brace as well, but this time I'll do both. Okay, so now you can see that I've got a single cross brace and I've got a double cross brace here. Okay, so they're basically the three methods that you'll be using within the system. So fundamentally, the inserting of the brace does not change. It just now gives you a height and a width that you can actually achieve your values for correctly. Now, normally what you would do is once you've created all your bracing in the plan, is then you can create your schedules to check how much bracing that you've got. So to do that, if I go to output, I can go to schedule, and then under schedule you have wind bracing A and wind bracing B. So wind bracing A will be in the vertical direction and wind bracing B will be in your horizontal direction. So if I now go wind bracing B and I want to add labels, so you can choose to add labels if you want to. It's obviously better if you do, and then your schedule as well. So that would then allow for on-site inspection to know which brace is which that you're looking at. If we go OK, we will now end up with a schedule. So as you can see currently, I've now got these new brace types that are down here with the code, which is obviously identical. Each label will then have, each brace will then have a label being B1, B3, and then you've got your etc. through there. If I do my A schedule, these would all have A labels on them. And then you would normally get a resistance. Now currently there is no resistance here, purely because of the fact that it's using the system settings at the moment, in which case they're not available. So what you have to remember is we have to apply these braces and these codes into the system for it to be able to register that this is going to become available. Now, all bracing resistance capacities are achieved from your engineer. This is not done by Vertex. Okay, so all capacity values should be from your engineer, and then you just insert these into the table that you've got. So the way that the system is working to achieve this, first of all, what you have to do is you have to be a system administrator to be able to make these changes. If you are not a system administrator, you will have to get your system administrator within the company to make these changes and that to the system so that you can actually use these bracing values. So the way it works for the braces as the start, so if we go to System tab and to Libraries, And in this particular case, because we're using standard braces, we can go to our system libraries, and then we can go to other accessory tools, and we've got bracing input for panels. So these are obviously our braces that we were coming in here. So one thing to keep in mind is if you've got customization to your braces and they're being modified in some way from the standard environment, this brace design option may not be available to you or may have to be customized in your system to achieve this. So if I look at my K brace, for instance, which is the one that I've used here, which is the 2007 K brace, right click and go to edit configurations, you'll see that there's a whole range of information down the bottom here, which all is relating to your brace. So for the braces to actually be activated, which is the 24 by 4 or 24 by 6 or whatever it is K brace, then this must be turned on and set to 1. If this is set to 0, you need to change the configuration to 1 to activate this. Otherwise, the brace design does not work. Okay, so that's the first option. The second option is if by choice your engineer would prefer to give you a meter rating, and that for the capacity. So if he said, okay, you can do for strap braces especially, it's good, he might say, look, your capacity is X per meter for a 24 high wall. Then if this is turned on, it will take that into consideration. So it will look at the length of the length of the strap brace that you've got on. It will then work out how many meters and that is applied to, and then it uses the value to equate what it can actually be, what is the actual resistance. Outside of that, you then have this range of information here. So the first lot of information relates to the height of the panel. So you have a minimum height and a maximum height that the braces can be achieved. So anything over a 3.3 wall height will not give you a brace value because you don't have the heights. And that purely could be because it's now out of range of your standard tables. So they're the two parts for the height, and the next part is the range of 300 increments. So what this one actually does is this one will go in increments. So it'll go 21, 24, 27, 3 meters, 3, 3 in the increments. So the first 2 digits of the brace that you see here is relating to whether it's a 2400 high. If this was 2510 and you've got in 300 mil increments, it would still be a 2400 because the value on a 27 is out of range. Okay, so it will work that way. Your length is the same, so you've got 300 as your minimum length, 600 as your maximum, and then the increments that you wish that to be in as well. So you've got your 150s. So that gives you your, so in the width, you'll have a 3, a 4, and a 6 in this situation, which gives you a 300 width up to a 450. This is your 450, and then you'll have your 600, okay? The other option that you do have as well is you can also nominate if you've got the width of the frame. So if you happen to be a fabricator that does both, that does 2 different size widths, for instance, a 70 mil and an 89, or could be a 75 and an 89 or something like that. Or if you've got 3 sizes or anything, then you can actually turn this on as well by putting in a 1, so that the width of the frame will actually come up as part of this code as well. And that will then allow you to have variations in the bracing capacity, because a K-brace may give you slightly more capacity if it's an 89mm frame compared to a 70mm frame. The other option that you have here is this symbol note, and that relates to what you're actually seeing here. So if you do not like seeing this code as in being 24x4 Z brace, and you don't want to see that, and you just wanted to see Z there only, you could just put that in as the definition, and I could change that to Z or K or strap or ZB, whatever it may be that you would wish. So they're the settings that you're bringing into your consideration. That works exactly the same for your Z brace. So, and your strap brace. So if you come to your strap brace, we're looking at the same settings here. So exactly the same information. So it all relates to the same information, both for your Zs, your Ks, and so on. So if you go into, if you wanted to test a different brace to see whether it's available to be used, you can click on it and right click and go to edit configurations. And if those configurations do exist, then potentially you can use that brace using the brace design. Okay. So that gives you a multitude of ways to be able to include your braces and get your braces into the system. So that relates to the braces, and obviously these heights and increments are based on what your engineer has given you as your tables. So if he's spanned them out more and spanned them in a height wise, they could be at 400 increments, it could be at 600 increments, whatever it is that he's actually specified to you. Once you've got that information, what you can do then is then install that into your system. So to do that, you would come to your custom libraries, and under custom libraries you should have other, and then beam load tables, and then load tables. So if you don't have this in the custom, you would have to contact us, and that's so that we can advise you on that. But once you have that, if I stretch through here, you've got your load table for bracing, double click, and then hit the edit button. This now gives you what you're actually using in your braces. So as you can see in this one, I've already got some examples here, and this has been, I've got a lot more braces in here than what is in your current custom folder, because I've added in some extra ones in here already. But as you can see, the code here is related. So you got a 24 3K brace, 24.4, 24.6. And the other thing that comes into play into this is the gauge of the material. Okay. Now, when you're looking at a Z brace or a K brace, the gauge of the material is what is being used in the framing tools for your stud material, essentially. So for most light gauge steel projects, normally you would be using all 1 mil or all 0.75 or all 0.55, depending on what gauge you're looking at, but generally as a rule the whole frame is done in the same material. So this is where this is taken from here for when you're working on your Ks and Zs. So that's why under here I have a 24.3 and a 24.3, but it's dependent on the gauge that I've got, which can then give me different capacities. If it's a strap brace, which is these ones here, the X brace 2418D or 2412 X brace, these ones here are based on the gauge of the material of the strap. Okay, so one thing that you do have to be careful of, sometimes when you do your bracing, the strap brace will say that this is a 1.0. Just double check how things go. You'll have to just do a test to see. Sometimes this gauge might need to be 1.0. Sometimes this gauge might need to be just 1. Okay, so, but once you create a table, it will tell you in the table what it should be because the gauge will be represented in the table, and you can then make your decisions from there as to what you need to do in this situation. The next one that becomes critical is the brace length. Now, it's a little deceptive with brace length, but the brace length actually refers to the stud spacings nominated in the framing tools. So obviously, if you're working on a standard sort of project, you could have 600 centers, or the framing tools could have 450 centers. So if it does have 450 centers, you'll have to then change this brace length to be 450. Okay. So this basically gives you all the information in here. If it's using the meterage, like I explained with the strap bracing, and you're using how long the brace is based on a meter capacity, then you need to write the formula in here, 24_M_X brace will then give you, and then the capacity here will be based on a per meter setup. Okay, so that's how the table is working. This description has to be based on what it is. So whether it's nominated either an X brace, a K brace, a Z brace, and even as you can see down here, a W brace. So if you're creating more braces, make sure that description is written out the way it is shown there. So to add a new brace in, 24/6 Z brace I've got for 7.5. If I need one for 9.5 material, I can just right click on this one and copy the row. And once I've done that, I can change this material here to 9.5, and then I can change my capacity, and let's say it was now becomes 2.1. So that's all you generally have to do with your braces, is just go through, add these in, and make sure that your brace length based on your stud spacings is correct, your gauge is correct, and your capacities. And once you've got your tables already set up, then that's all you have to do. And obviously these tables are all based off what your engineer has told you. So once you've created this bracing, that will then give you, you'll be able to utilize those for your jobs. So if we go OK, save changes, OK. Now, one thing that we have to do, if you are looking at now using these new load tables, we now have to activate those load tables so that they can be used. So first thing I'm going to do is just remove this schedule. So if you go back to your output tab into schedule, and this was in the B direction, and I can just click on remove, and that will just remove all of my setups. So to activate the load tables, what I should have done is gone in here. So the system load tables at the moment is in here as well. So the system load tables are here. So if you want to see that while you're in the system settings, if you go to your settings and make sure that your display library column is turned on, if you click the beam load tables, you'll notice that the load tables here, that's the library that is currently being used. If I go to the custom setup and look at the same information, you'll see that the load tables is just called load underscore tables. So what we need to do is activate these load tables so that they can be used for the custom information that you've now applied. So to do that, you would need to go to your File tab, Preferences, and Edit. Activate your administrator's view, and you need to expand your PCE setup. And then if you scroll basically down to the bottom of this list, you'll see that there's bracing load table design library. And for the bracing design, currently at the moment, you'll see that it's using load table sys. So what we need to do is remove those so that it would now look at the load tables, which is what the custom setup is. If you happen to have a different library name and that for whatever reason, then that data would have to be put in correctly so that it reads the right location. And then we go OK to that. Now that we've got our bracing tables being used, we can now look to insert our schedules to get our bracing capacities correct. So to do that, I can go to Output, Schedule, and I'll do wind direction A, and OK. And then I can do wind direction B, and OK. And as you can see here now, I have a resistance in here of what the value of my resistance is. I then have quantities here. So, and this is my total value that I've achieved. So in this line here for my A3 type, I have 3 quantity, which will be 3 of 1.61. Okay, so these resistance values are the values per brace, not the total of the 3 that you see. So you have the similar type of thing over here. So as you can see, my 24x4 Z brace, I obviously don't have a resistance available in my schedule to be able to get this correct. So that's why it's missing a value. So this is a way of testing to check to see that you have all your values in there, and if you don't, you can add them in. So, or it could be that it's based on I don't have the correct gauge or whatever. So there is something that is missing that's not allowing me to achieve this. So that is a way of doing it. So if you have a plan that's been provided to you by the builder or whoever your client is, and you already have the bracing values, this is basically all you need to do to double check that you've exceeded or at least achieved the amount of bracing that you need in the direction that you've got based off the values that they've told you. If you don't have enough value and that here, then obviously you need to add in more braces and that to get to the value that you require. However, if you haven't got the brace values, you can use the wall bracing engineering that is in the system. So again, it's just basically using this tabulated information to get your right information. So what I'll do here is I'll just remove these schedules. So now I've removed all my schedules and everything. So to do the wind bracing and that on the building, what you need to do first is to make sure that you've already applied your wind speeds, your wind information to your model on the roof itself. So as you can see, I've got the yellow hatching and that's on here, which means that my bracing, my wind has already been inserted onto my roof, both as in the ceiling with my internal pressure coefficient and so on. So to do the walls now, while you're in the wall model, go to your engineering tab and go to your wind loads. And I'm just going to go Control A for all my external walls. Obviously, if you had some walls that weren't applicable, you would delete them or add ones in that you need. Go V to confirm. So what you would do now is automatic. So I'm just going to make this 45. All of this data in here is obviously taken from the code. So what you would do is go through that information and insert the relevant information according to the code that you've got. Once you've done that, just hit OK. And it now goes through and generates all the loading onto the walls itself. I'll just quickly pause it here while it goes through this process. Okay, so now that we've got that complete, if you go to your 3D model, you'll notice that I've got the yellow and that around there as well. So now to apply the wind bracing, you just go to the wall wind bracing here, and it'll say select the walls, which are generally highlights, so you can confirm those. So V to confirm, and then select wall roofs and ceilings, so V to confirm. And if you wait now, it will then come up with the information that is required. So it'll come up with the information. As you can see, all your braces are listed in the directions that they are. And all you need to do is check your wall bracing and check your wall bracing. Okay, so it'll tell you obviously that I don't have one with a capacity, but as you can see here, it's telling me I've got 10.29, which the design fails because I don't exceed my 46 that's required here. But on this side, I've got 27.2, which is a pass because I'm exceeding my 19. So I can go quit on that. And when you do that, you'll get these bracing information here so that you're aware. And then once you do that, if you come back to your wall bracing here, you can go add labels and schedules, which is basically just adding exactly the same information that we added previously. So it'll put all your labels there and it'll give you your information. So we've got our 27.29 and our 10.29. Now, obviously, if I was short of that information and that where my design fails, I would now have to go back in and start applying more braces to get beyond that. And essentially that's all you need to do your braces. What I can show you briefly is just quickly, if you do want a K-brace, so what I'll just quickly do is if I come into the library here, and I'll just go to my accessories and bracing input. So if I go to my K-brace here and edit my configurations, if I did want to change the symbol note and I just wanted to change that to say KB for K-brace, I can go OK. exit out of that. And then if I go and add in a new K-brace, so let's do this one here and edit. Framing tools and do 2007 and add in my brace. No, that didn't work. There we go, that's better. So as you can see now, my label is written as KB, but if I do replace my schedule, so I can go to my schedule now and I'll do it in the A direction. So when I look at this one now, my brace is A5 and my A5 is still my 24/6. So it will now tell me the right information. It just means that potentially your plan can be a little bit tidier if you don't like these longer labels. And there you have it. I hope that can help detailers with achieving the bracing design that they need for their plans easier than what they've currently been doing. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Paul. Thank you so much. That was very excellent and well-prepared presentation. And now it's time for the questions and answers. If you do have those, this is that question tab or box there in the webinar interface. There were a couple of questions during the webinar. One was that is there going to be the recording after that, and we have a YouTube channel, Vertex BD Building Design Software, and there are different kind of playlists, and there's the webinars playlist as well. You will find webinars from there quite soon after the webinar. There's also a lot of useful information available here in this YouTube channel. But we don't have any other questions at the moment. So thank you for all of you participating this webinar. This webinar series, Engineering Detailing, continues with the FEA webinar in September 22nd, and then seats and cladding with steel frames. So that webinar will be in October. So just keep in channel and join those webinars as well. If you are interested in bracing design and engineering topics, or of cold form steel structures, or anything related to design of the cold form steel structures, and want more information, please contact to our Vertex BD sales teams. You can find the contact details from that address, vertexcad.com/contacts. Thanks again, and have a great day, rest of the day, all of you. Thank you very much, and goodbye.
Thanks, everybody. Goodbye.